So thank you all for coming. I think this is going to be really interesting. I've been working on this for a long time, looking at the different campaign financing going on in our community. We spent the first half just talking about how campaign finance reports work, and then the second half we're going to do look at actual finance reports for local candidates that just ran in 2018. So with that, we'll get started. So what's going to be covered, just to be clear, we're going to talk about state, county, city, town, and township races. This is the rules for that. We're not looking at federal, especially because those are very different rules. They're referendums or judicial or school boards or delegates. This is just those types of races. Okay. So if you're running for office, you need to have a campaign finance committee if the compensation for that office is at least $5,000 a year, or if you plan on raising or spending over $500. So almost all races, you need to have a campaign finance committee. Then you must file a CFA-1, which gets your campaign committee started. And in that, you talk about there's a candidate, a treasurer, who's the one that's going to file all your campaign finance forms, and there's a chairperson. These can theoretically all be the same person, but ideally you want to have 3 different people, especially with the treasurer. So when people are contributing to your campaign and your reporting, there are some different types of contributions. One of them is itemized versus unitemized. So if a contribution is over $100 in total from one entity, one person, one corporation, one PAC, you need to itemize it, and I'll show you what that means. Is basically write down who it's from, their address, that type of thing. If it's less than $100 or less, then you can put it in an unitemized category. You do need to report all your itemized, but you just lump it into one big sum. The other thing is in-kind versus direct. So if you're running for office and somebody donates a bag of donuts to a fundraiser, you need to report that, and then that shows up as a contribution. It also shows up as an expense. So, any questions about that?
Why does it show up as an expense?
Because if the dollars are
spent.
Right, dollars flowing in, dollars flowing out. Okay. So there are 3 key filing dates for campaign finance reform at the state and local level. First is an annual report. So if you have a committee at all, even if you're not running for office, you need to file a report every year until you close your committee. If you're running for office, if you're actually on the ballot that year, you need to file a pre-primary report and a pre-election report. So about 2 to 3 weeks before the actual primary or the actual election, you will file a report saying all the money that you've raised and spent for the year, or for that time period. So there's a little an interesting thing that happens because there's a time lag between your filing and the actual election itself. So it happens in both the primary and in the general election. If you file your pre-primary or pre-election filing, and then you get a donation of over $1,000 between the filing and the actual election, you need to write, within 48 hours, you need to send in a report announcing that you've got this large donation and who you got it from. Okay? So that's just a way that if there's some last minute money flowing into a campaign, and there was some of that this year, it's getting recorded before the actual election happens. Is there any questions about that? Okay. So Indiana contribution limits. So theoretically, or actually in law, labor unions and corporations are limited to giving $22,000 in a calendar year by state law. That is also further broken down into what types of campaigns you can give to state and local elections, etc. But for everything else, there's no limits. So for individuals, for PACs, for LLCs, for LLPs, for state or county parties, other candidate committees, all of those types of entities can give unlimited amounts of cash to campaigns in state and local elections.
So a corporation could give unlimited money to a PAC, and then that PAC could give unlimited money to a candidate?
Yes, I believe that's correct. Or they can form a PAC, and you'll see a lot of the money that we would think of being a corporation is actually coming from a corporate PAC. So you'll see that in the bottom line is there's really no, I didn't see any campaign limits, and you'll see the numbers when we go through that. So I'm going to get a little technical and go through some of the mechanics of the filing just so you understand when we look at the data, what we're looking at. So the filing form that you file is called the CFA4, and there's a summary sheet, and I'll go through that a little bit more detail. And then you list out separately your contributions by individuals, corporations, labor orgs, PACs, other organizations. There's a section for itemized expenditures, and then there's the debts on that. You owe the committee can actually owe money. And usually what happens is a candidate will lend its campaign money and then pay themselves back, especially at the start of a campaign. Vicki Birch, for example, did that when she was running this year. So this is a blow-up of the summary page, and this is important because when you report, you're going to report this period, this time period, your contributions and your expenditures, but you're also going to report the cumulative total for the year. Okay? So this case, this person started the year with $26,000. But this is the time period for right after the election, but right after the election filing, so 10/13 through 12/31. During that period, at the start of that period, they only had $6,000 left. They raised $89.50 itemized, $100 unitemized for a total of $9,000. You add that to the beginning balance, they've got $15,000 that they've got available to spend, and they spent only $266 in that time period. So they ended the period with $15,156, and then of course, if you look at it, you can see what they did. This is also, because of this time period ending at 12/31, this also is pretty much the same thing as the annual report. Let's see how the annual stuff.
Was in-kind in that?
Yeah, so in-kind will be either in the itemized or the unitemized list. You'll lump it in there. So this is an example of a contribution page. This particular one is a political action committee, but they all look the same for all the contributions. And for an itemized, you put who you're getting the money from, whether it's direct or indirect. What it is for this time period, what it is year to date, and then they've got who got the money. And then this is just an expenditure page. It looks pretty much the same, where you've got a cumulative total running. This is the period, this is total year to date. This is when it was actually spent. Okay, any questions about that? One thing I do want to talk about is Act Blue, because Act Blue is a very powerful tool, is a very powerful PAC that Democrats use. And you'll see that. I'm going to give you guys some forms to look at. What Act Blue does, and it really helps us with using credit cards for fundraising, right? So people can go on our webpage and donate to Act Blue. Then what Act Blue does, take the money that's been donated to them, turn around, they collect a fee, and then they pay us. They pay the candidate, I should say. One thing that's a little interesting here is that because the donors aren't donating to you, they're donating to Act Blue. Act Blue needs to report them donating to them. But you're not getting a donation, the candidates are not getting a donation from Act Blue. From the donor, they're getting it from Act Blue. So they can report it through Act Blue. So now that's not what Act Blue was designed for, but it's a way PACs is, it shows you how PACs can hide or make it hard to find out who's donating to who. Now, the good news is, I will tell you that I don't see a lot of who's donating, and we'll see the reports. I don't see a lot of it being hidden. A lot of people are showing up. But it's a way that you can hide who's donating to different candidates pretty easily. Or maybe not hide, but make it less clear.
And is Act Blue an LLC or an LLP, so the report is exempt from?
It's a PAC.
Oh, it's a PAC. Okay.
Yeah. So let's pause here, and I'm gonna give you guys, well, we're gonna go through and look at some candidates. So I thought I'll just give you some different races. And this is, so I'm gonna do that one. Oh. I'll give you that one. And just take a look.
I think you're supposed to take one and pass it, right?
No.
Oh, no?
No, I didn't do that.
No, it looks like it's the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And just take a look, and then I'm gonna, so what I did is I went through all of these. I'll give you one too. Who's this? Yeah, you can have this one. So I went through and printed these out, and then I looked at all the different races that happened in 2018. Give you a few minutes to look through those, and then we'll go through all the races, and we can talk about the lessons or what I gleaned from that.
And they just why would San Richard Preston's give them $650?
Ooh. Yeah, there's a lot of questions I have when you look at it. So, all right, let's go through this, and then we can look at some more of those if you want to look at the detail. But you can see there's a lot of detail there. There's a lot of information and data on these reports. So in the state senate race 22, Alting versus Shipley, if you look at Ron Alting started with $342,000 in his account. Sherry had $2,000. He raised $242,000. Sherry raised $38,000. Ron spent $218,000. Sherry spent $40,000, and they ended up with $366,000 Ron had, and Sherry had negative balance.
So do you know if you have like a negative balance and it was like a personal loan, can you just like forgive that loan?
I'm not really sure what will happen. Like, she'll just pay it. I'm not sure what happens there. Yeah.
Or do you have to like donate to yourself to then pay yourself back
I think that.
to?
We can forgive loans.
Yes. If you're a candidate and you lend yourself, maybe you should lend yourself money.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I wanted to look and say, okay, where did Sherry get her money from, and where did she spend it? And this is just, I tried to look at everything above $1,000 for the year. I didn't look at anything below. Because as you can see, there's a lot of people, a lot of pages, and I was trying to summarize it a little bit. So some of the interesting things, the biggest donor to Sherry's campaign was the Indiana Senate Democrats. She also got money from this Better Indiana PAC. There's her Act Blue money, was $4,772. That is probably individual donations aggregated up. So I think of that as the sum of her individual donations, which may not be quite accurate, but And then she got some design work in kind. So you'll see this SummiDesigns.com with an in-kind donation. So it shows up as a donation. It also shows up as an expenditure over on this side. And then she got some money from a labor union. So the total she raised was $38,000. And you kind of see how some of the big ones versus her total, how many little, less than $1,000 donations she had. You look at her expenditures, a lot of the money she spent was on staff and printing and billboards. She did spend $1,000 on radio ads. I don't believe she spent any money on TV. Okay. Any questions about that? Because now we're going to go into Ron Alting's numbers, which are pages of money. I'll be honest with you. So, I've got 2 pages of donations we're going to go through. So this is everybody that donated over $1,000 to Ron Alting in 2018. So he got $32,000 from the Indiana Republican State Committee. He also donated to the Indiana State Republican Committee, so this isn't all money that he got to keep, but what you do is like, the Tippecanoe County Democratic Party did some flyers with all the candidates on it, so we all gave a little bit of money to them, and then they printed it, so it's kind of a little bit of money that you're kind of moving around a little bit as opposed to like your donation. Stuart Blair Reed is an individual who donated $25,000 to Ron Alting's campaign. He lives in, I had to Google him when I saw that. He lives in a giant house, either in Zion, I think it's in Zionsville. So he's honestly, I think he's associated with the healthcare industry, if I remember right. And I think it was also Fuzzy's Vodka. iPace is the teachers pack.
Because liquor and healthcare go together.
Well, and then you'll see a lot of his other donations are associated with the liquor industry. Now, if you remember 2018, we got to buy liquor finally on Sundays. So I don't know if that was they were particularly generous that year, if that's how they always are. But you need to see, Sun King, Anheuser-Busch, Cold Beer Pack, Big Red is the liquor store. Over here, wine and spirits.
Beer industry. Distilled
Yeah, does he
spirits.
do a lot of legislation for alcohol laws?
I think he's on the committee, the subcommittee around that. If I remember right, because I remember he had a lot to do with us being able to vote on Sundays.
Drink.
Drink on, yeah, sorry.
Purchase.
Purchase it.
Why we should be able to vote on
We could always
Sundays.
drink.
Okay, you want to go to the next slide? So here's just some more places he's gotten that money from. Again, a lot of liquor companies, a lot of packs.
A lot of packs.
Yeah. He's also gotten a lot of $1,000 donations from individuals. And that's something you'll see over and over again when it comes to the Republican Party. Individuals give $1,000 or very large donations that you just quite frankly don't see on the Democratic side.
Yeah. I'm wondering if these people show up a lot in a lot of different campaigns, do they?
Yes, they do. And here's what he spent money on. So he spent almost $50,000 on media, and he spent $43,000 with the Indiana Republican State Committee. Remember, he got money from them, so it's a little bit of a wash. He spent some money on travel. He gave $5,250 to the Tippecanoe GOP. He gave a lot of money to candidates. So John Ford, who had a very competitive election down in Terre Haute. He gave money to
Jason
Yeah, Jason, Julie, Sally,
All the candidates here.
and those are only the $1,000. If he gave less than 1,000, I didn't write it down. So there were some smaller than that as well. And he still has over $300,000 in his account. Okay, any questions about that? All right. So now I'm going to look at another race. It's a state house race with Loretta Barnes and Sherry Nagel. And I would classify the race with Sherry and Ron as competitive, right? It was like 55% to 45 or something. This race was not nearly as competitive. Quite
Competitive
frankly.
as far as the vote is
The vote,
concerned,
yeah.
not the
Well-
money spent.
Well, let's talk, yes, true, very true. This is a race that Sharon Nagel won very easily, and I will also tell you she spent we'll see, but she didn't really spend any money on it. She spent $41,000, but we'll see that wasn't really spent on her campaign. And Loretta Barnes spent $5,000, almost $6,000, let's say. So Sharon Nagel, this is where she raised her money from. A lot of she didn't have those huge donations like Ron Alton did, but she did get some money, some bigger donations, and she ended up raising $29,000 for the year. But she ended up giving $38,000 to the HRCC, which is the House Republican Campaign Committee. So she took the money that she collected and donated it to the House Republicans.
So do you notice that, because it seems like happens a lot with the Republican candidates, does that happen with the Dems? Like, do they end up giving a lot of money back to the state Democratic Party?
Somewhat, and we'll yes, we'll show. I have a little bit of that. We don't have as many. We don't have that as much, but yes.
Lisa,
Mhm.
is HRCC, is that the state House Republican campaign?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because I know that Sharon Nagel was also Jim Baird's
Oh,
District 4
yeah.
chair.
Yeah, that'll show up a lot. HRCC. It'll show up on Sally's stuff too.
So I'm making an
Yeah.
assumption here, but with the way that districting has been conducted, and we have a supermajority at the state, right? So when you have a district that is heavily one party versus another, that's when you get to do that kind of behavior, right? So we, by we I mean Democrats, I'm a Democrat, but Democrats do not have as many districts that were clearly Democratic. And so,
But they did give money to Chris Campbell.
Yeah, it just seems like it's
very smaller
due
percentage.
to the majorities. It seems like they're far more centralized in their financing.
So what that tells me is, and I'll show you, and I drew this beautiful graph to show you that how it works is you've got the money flowing into a state race that's not competitive. They're spending some of it maybe on their campaign. They're spending some of it on local races, right? Sheriff or county council or whatever they're spending it on. They send a lot of it back to the state parties. They send some of it to the state, to highly competitive state races directly. And then the state parties and PACs also contribute to the competitive races. So I didn't put it on here, but I printed out that John Ford. I wanted to look him up in Terre Haute. He raised like $700,000. It's like off the charts type of money. And he won by 50, I think it was 56 to 44. So he was an incumbent as well. So
he had to spend that much just to get that? That's a lot.
Any questions about that? I mean, this is, just understand that when you have basically the lesson is when you have a non-competitive race, that money just flows to competitive race. Yeah.
Okay.
Or some of it sits there, like, I mean.
So when you have a state with a supermajority, there's an enormous amount of money flowing to
Well, I
any
mean,
competitive
Ron
race.
has $300,000 and he just keeps in his, and that's also a war chest to scare people off, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So on a little bit brighter note, the Sally Segrist Chris Campbell race, Sally raised $218,000, Chris raised $127,000. They spent about the same amount, but Chris won. So you don't have to spend a lot of money. I mean, you don't have to spend more than them to win. You just have to be. I think you just have to be in the game. You have to have the ante. And the ante is probably $100,000 to win a state house race, is my guess.
Wow.
It's not nothing.
That pays like $25,000 a year, by the way.
Yeah, that's kind of, yeah. It disrupts your schedule for a couple months.
Did you want that
No, not locked, just like shut. So,
Well-
yeah, that, you don't run, I mean, it's a lot of money for a $25,000 a year job. Okay,
I hope you're not doing the job for the money.
No, I know, but,
Yeah.
Well, what's the per diem end up being? 50?
yeah.
It's like 170. How long a session? 80 days or so?
Yeah, I don't know what they actually net, but it's not
Yeah. It doesn't. It still doesn't.
It's not that much money, yeah. So here's Sally's, again, look at what Sally, she got $93,000 from the house, the HRCC. But she did end up, well, because they did surveys for her, so that was probably an in-kind donation that showed up as part of their $93,000, right?
You're saying Market Red is a survey?
No, Market Red is an advertising company. HRCC.
Oh, I see, surveys.
She did, yeah, she said they were for surveys, so I'm guessing they probably did some surveys for her and.
So Market Red did
And
advertising.
an in-kind donation.
Okay. So you can't see Market Red, you can't see, that could be the advertising they paid for plus,
This is money she gave directly to Market Red. She wrote a check for, right?
Yeah.
but I'm saying that could be advertised, so it could have been a radio ad, it could have been TV.
Right,
They didn't itemize that expense.
There may be more detail in the report. I wasn't really, there was so much of
Okay.
it.
Since it's one place, I don't even think you'd probably have to report, like subdivide how that money goes out.
They do because they want to show every time it happens, because usually it's something that they're doing over the year. But I didn't put into that because there's so much here, I think. Again, Ron Alton for Senate donated $1,000 to her. Some big donations from individuals.
Caterpillar
I
manufacturer.
think Harry Lehman owns East End Grill, if I'm right. Something like that. I assume the risks are Kirby risk. I don't know. So here is Chris.
Oh.
And
That's
you're
not
asking,
bad.
does the Dems do that? Yes. You see Chris got $37,000.
Yeah.
She also got money from other state reps, right? $10,000 from this Giacinta. Terry Austin gave her another candidate. She's got friends of Sue Arrington as a rep. Ryan Hatfield is a house rep. Democratic house rep.
Yeah, I just haven't seen a lot going back to the caucus, like on the expenditure side.
Yeah, because I looked at mainly the competitive races.
Yeah, and most of it's all spent.
This is competitive
Probably
races.
Indianapolis funds,
Yeah.
the region in Indianapolis funds.
Yeah.
So say if you look at like Senator Bro or like Representative Pryor or some other like very, very down districts.
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing, I'm just
Yeah.
looking.
Yeah. So, any questions about that one?
Noticing some unions on this side.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, that's nice to see.
But they're capped for some weird reason. Although they could,
They just do a pack.
Yeah.
do they?
Yeah, these are all packs. Indiana
Oh, they
State
are,
Iron
okay.
Workers is a pack. Yeah.
And
I mean, I'm sure there's a regular, but they probably have, like, we could form a PAC, individual could have a PAC, and we could be a 501c4.
I've done nothing.
Well, we don't have enough money.
I know what I was saying. So this is kind of interesting. I wanted to look at something a little different. I wanted to look at Brad Hirschman because he stepped down January 2nd of 2018 to become a lobbyist, right? And at the start of 2000, so when he started, he had $247,000 in his account. I thought, well, what did he do with that $247,000 now that he's not being a politician, right? Well, so it's still in his account. He spent $25,000, and we'll see that. And he still has at the end of the year $222,000. Buchanan, who took his place, I wanted to look at his not quite as interesting. Let's see what he did. So Hirschman raised no money, which is kind of a good thing since he wasn't running for office. Although he could have raised money. And this is what he spent his money on. And you can see he spent his money on other candidates. So that's what you can do with your money. You can give it to other candidates. You can give it to charity. You can use campaign expenses.
I'm about to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done more detail on this. $500.
Reimbursement for airfare.
Yes.
When you're not running for office, I guess you just fly around and talk to your lobbying buddies to get your
the
job.
rules are pretty loose.
Mm-hmm.
Is my impression.
Interesting, Ron for Congress, so that would have been Steve.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good catch. And I was like, is this the same person? But it's not. It's
Different.
So just like any 501c something, you can pretty much donate to or a PAC for a campaign.
pardon?
For a campaign, you can just give your money to like any nonprofit or PAC or whatever.
Anyone, right?
Well, I don't know if you give it to anyone. Like, I don't think you give it to yourself.
Well, you can pay yourself back for the loan.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the 1,500 and like the those are all like caps.
Nope.
No, maybe
There's no cap.
oh, so he just felt like, you need to like the caps we should only get 500 or something like that.
Yeah.
Fraud for Congress.
So presumably he's got all this cash in a war chest so he could run again if he so chooses.
But think about this, guys. He is a lobbyist.
Mm-hmm.
So he's lobbying these guys
And giving them money.
and has all this money to donate to them.
It's a pretty cool system we have.
Wow, wait, what? Ouch, whoa, has some clear perverse incentives. Oh my.
It's okay. It's okay. It's the system we deemed.
Welcome to politics.
2 thumbs up from the Supreme Court.
Oh, this is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Okay, no. Yeah. Yeah, believe it. And then I just want to look at Brian Buchanan. It's not quite as interesting, but because he was not, this is his first year, and he wasn't running for office. Now, I assume these numbers are going to be bigger this year, and it'll be even bigger in 2020 when he actually has a raise. But he's already getting money from PACs.
What is WILO? Why?
It's summit. I think it's, I don't know.
Oh, advertising.
Yeah.
All ad companies have various strange.
He didn't spend very much money, but he didn't need to. So this is, as you know, we had a very competitive sheriff's race, and Bob Goldsmith won by 200 votes. So if you're feeling despair about the state of the donations, and there is some despair to feel there, a great candidate and a little bit of money can do a lot. So, so John Kosky spent $159,000. He did have a competitive primary. And Bob Goldsmith, who was not in the primary, he spent about $12,000. So, go to the next slide. So here's what how Bob raised money. And you can see he had one donation of over $1,000 from him. Everybody else was small donations. And he raised, $12,000, and he spent money on brochures and signs, and he had some radio, like on Star City Broadcasting. They had some
Oh,
radio too.
he had a ton of small donations then, like
Yeah.
people giving
All
him
of
cash.
them, yeah.
Wow.
So, not very sure.
Well, 80%.
How did he win? I mean,
I think he won because he's a really nice guy.
I mean, I agree with all of that. I'm just-
He has a family, his family is from here. Went here, he went to Jeff High School, he's just got really strong roots.
Don't discount the fact that Jason Domkowski did not work the last 4 months of the election.
And he had a really nasty primary to go through, so.
And I think some people were turned off by the signs. That's
So
what I
many.
heard, anecdotally. Let's talk about the signs, so.
Yeah.
So here is Jason Domkowski's donations for the year. Okay, lots and lots of people donated to him, hundreds of dollars. I did not put that on here, I just put the 1,000 and above on here. It took me a long time. I typed all this stuff in, because of course it's not in an Excel spreadsheet. I put it in an Excel spreadsheet, but you can see where he got his money from. The Bashams gave him $10,000. Rita Management gave him $12,000. John Dennis for mayor gave him $6,000. Wagner Chiropractic. Scott Loads, he shows up in a lot of places. Gary Lehman shows up in a lot of places. Roland Weaver. Marcus Mueller, he's a realtor real estate guy. The Tippecanoe County Commissioners have a PAC. I see them a lot, showing up and donating to the Republican candidates. Just look at all the donations he got of $1,000 from individuals, a lot. So,
And the Tippecanoe County Commissioners
PAC.
PAC. Mm. Because none of them have had an opponent for
Yeah.
like 8 years or something. I mean, two.
That seems like a weird pack. It's like the county council getting a PAC and then donating to candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
That's weird.
Good. They're all Republicans, so.
And you get all this information from the state, right?
This stuff,
All,
all the stuff with the House and Senate, that's all online.
right.
This I got from Brian Magnus from the election.
Oh, okay. I was trying to figure out why it's not in Excel, and then that explains it.
Because they don't have to file it in Excel either.
So you had to type all this out? Oof.
Well, whose decision is that to file it in Excel or not? Like, where's that decision?
But I'm just saying the state does not have anything in, nobody, I've
State
never
doesn't?
seen anyone sum this out in Excel. Maybe it exists, but
When we ask for
Report it.
even voter data, it comes in PDF format.
Which you could, like the stuff that's auto-submitted, you could write a program to like get the data out of that. But like Domkowski's is handwritten. You gotta hand enter all of that in.
So, okay, Domkowski comes to me and he says, hey, I'm running, as an individual, okay, there's donations, but like, what's Wagner Chiropractic Center? Like,
It's out on Union.
well, okay, but well, like, what skin in the game do they have to donate to a sheriff? Oh,
Maybe they know him personally, or I don't know.
okay.
You mean WIDA Management?
The
Like a rental company?
Yeah, we don't, I mean, like, okay, John Dennis, like, okay, he's a Republican, he backed, Domkowski and Sally Seacrest, so I can, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know.
so now, I will say, I think Jason, from what I could read, I think he had a couple of fundraisers, because there were like people donating the same amount over and over and over and over. So I think that might be some of the, I think he had some really good fundraisers.
You can tell where the fundraisers are too, because they're just like the same amount
Right.
every time on the same day.
Go to the next slide. So this is where Jason spent his money. I like this slide because this will be good. He spent $10,852 on signs. And remember, Bob only spent $12,000 total, so he spent almost $11,000 on signs.
$10,000 on catering.
And that's where all the fundraising.
That's the fundraiser,
Yep.
probably.
And yep, this is
$9,000 on videos. Because he spent $1,500 to, which I don't see it on here. He spent $1,500 to
I may have only gone down to 15,000 on this.
Indiana Motion Pictures, so $10,000 on video.
All I'm noticing is I am in the wrong business.
Yeah. Well, and this Twin City Dodge, he got that 1,500, that was a that was.
Cars.
So it's an in-kind donation.
Yeah.
He got to use their vehicles to campaign.
I just want to say, it seems like a lot of these like communications companies and ad companies and political consulting companies, it seems like they're charging a lot.
Yeah.
It seems like it's an arena ripe for disruption for those who climb along.
My impression, and I could be wrong on this, my impression is that a Democratic candidate is just better with makes their money go farther than a Republican candidate, but I might be wrong about that.
I mean, it seems like you don't, like, that's what you gotta do.
I mean, this,
Right,
You gotta-
by necessity, that's
Yeah.
true too. So he
Well-
spent $10,000 on voter surveys.
Well, I never got one.
Well, they were-
You would not the
I'm a
target.
marketing company, and I think it's difficult to tell from this list what they were doing as well.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know exactly what he's paying for. So, I mean,
Well,
And I'm sure a lot of these,
Consultation,
Yeah.
like, who knows what that.
these are private companies,
oh,
they don't have to
here's-
report what they are, which.
Okay, so here's a summary of the campaign activity by race, and I think, I don't know if there's any questions about that. I know it's a pretty chart, so we just go to the next one. I don't know if you would need that. Oh, wait a second. Okay, you can learn more there. Oh, there's my key takeaways. I want this one. Yes. So there's some key takeaways I want you to walk away on. Democrats are dramatically outfunded by Republicans in this area. Candidates in non-competitive races can use their money to fund other competitive races. The biggest spending does not guarantee winning. Campaign dollars can be used for many other uses even after the candidates retire. There's no real dollar limit to campaign funding at the state and local levels. And then finally, alcohol and the liquor industry invested heavily in Senator Alton's campaign.